Patrick Mahomes might be the king of the NFL, but even kings make enemies. From heated clashes with Joey Bosa to tense face-offs with Josh Allen, these are the moments Mahomes went up against the wrong NFL players and instantly regretted it. Joey Bosa. Let's kick things off with a rivalry that's been simmering for years between Patrick Mahomes and one of the league's most ferocious pass rushers, Joey Bosa. Now with the Buffalo Bills, Bosa spent years terrorizing opposing quarterbacks as a member of the Los Angeles Chargers, and nobody felt his wrath quite like the teams in the AFC West, particularly the Kansas City Chiefs. Here's the thing about the Mahomes-Bosa dynamic. It's not necessarily about one single incident or trash-talking moment that sparked the beef. Instead, it's been a slow burn of frustration built up over years of Mahomes and the Chiefs absolutely dominating Bosa's Chargers. Game after game, season after season, Mahomes would carve up the Chargers defense, leaving Bosa and his teammates in his dust while racking up wins and personal accolades. The frustration reached such a fever pitch that when Netflix released their acclaimed quarterback documentary series featuring Mahomes prominently, Bosa flat out refused to watch it. When asked about it, Bosa's response was telling and dripping with disdain. He essentially said, "Why would I watch a show about Patrick Mahomes?" Even though he acknowledged Mahomes' undeniable skill, Bosa just couldn't bring himself to consume more content about the quarterback who had become his professional nemesis. But here's where it gets really interesting. Bosa has recorded multiple sacks and strip sacks against Mahomes throughout their careers. There was a notable play back in 2020 where Bosa absolutely demolished Mahomes during a game at SoFi Stadium, bringing him down hard and reminding everyone why he's one of the premier edge rushers in the league. Then in 2021, Bosa forced a strip sack on Mahomes that marked his NFL-high 6th of that season, a stat that Bosa was undoubtedly proud of, especially considering it came against the league's best quarterback. However, not all of Bosa's aggressive plays against Mahomes have been celebrated. Back in 2022, there was an incident where Bosa hit Mahomes in what some perceived as a low tackle, prompting Brittany Mahomes to take to Twitter and angrily call it out. She wasn't happy, calling it a low hit that could have seriously injured her husband. The referees, however, flagged it as offensive holding on the Chiefs' offensive lineman, rather than a dirty hit on Bosa's part. But the damage was done. The perception that Bosa was playing with perhaps a bit too much aggression, bordering on intent to injure, had been planted. Fast forward to 2025, and Bosa's now wearing a Bills uniform, which adds a whole new dimension to this rivalry. Analysts have noted that despite his injury history, when Bosa's healthy, he still possesses the ability to pressure and potentially disrupt Mahomes in crucial games. The personal edge in their encounters hasn't diminished. If anything, it's only intensified with time and each subsequent meeting on the field. Next up, we have a rivalry that's become one of the spiciest in the modern NFL: Jamar Chase. The genesis of this rivalry really kicked into high gear around 2023, when the quarterback rankings debate was raging. Bengals quarterback Joe Burrow had called Mahomes the NFL's best, but Chase publicly disagreed, famously saying "Pat who" in support of his teammate. This wasn't just friendly banter. Chase was making a statement, deliberately diminishing Mahomes' accomplishments and reputation to prop up his own quarterback. The disrespect didn't go unnoticed. Chiefs tight end Travis Kelce even warned against disrespecting Mahomes, understanding that poking the bear that is Patrick Mahomes rarely ends well for those doing the poking. But Chase didn't seem to care about the warning. He was all in on the Joe Burrow hype train and wasn't about to let facts, statistics, or championship rings get in the way of his loyalty. Mahomes' response? Absolutely perfect. After Kansas City won another Super Bowl championship, Mahomes posted a photo of his Super Bowl rings on social media with the caption, "That's who," a direct and devastating clapback to Chase's "Pat who" comment. It was subtle, it was classy, but it was also brutally effective. Mahomes let his hardware do the talking, and the internet absolutely exploded with reactions. Chase had been thoroughly and publicly humiliated, served a cold dish of reality with a side of championship pedigree. But Chase, to his credit or perhaps his detriment, didn't back down. In 2024, during NFL Top 100 interviews, Chase doubled down on his stance, refusing to even say Mahomes' name while admitting he's amazing, but remaining salty about the Chiefs' back-to-back titles. He insisted on ranking Burrow first. No matter what the actual evidence suggested. This level of pettiness has become somewhat of a trademark for Chase when it comes to Mahomes and the Chiefs. The rivalry has manifested in other ways too. Chase has been known to avoid jersey swaps with Chiefs players and has participated in creating and sharing anti-Mahomes memes on social media. It's become almost an obsession for Chase, this need to diminish Mahomes and elevate Burrow, even in the face of overwhelming evidence that Mahomes has been the more successful quarterback. Now, let's be fair to Chase. He's backed up his talk with his play, at least to some some degree. When facing the Chiefs, Chase has put up impressive numbers, including 363 yards and 3 touchdowns in 2 regular season games. The Bengals actually hold a 2-0 edge over the Chiefs in regular season matchups during this rivalry period, though they've split the postseason games 1-1. So Chase isn't just talking, he's also performing when it matters. Now we're getting into legendary territory. When you're as successful as Patrick Mahomes has been early in his career, you're going to draw comparisons to the all-time greats. Troy Aikman. The saga began way back in 2019, when a social media post highlighted that Mahomes had thrown 36% of Aikman's career touchdowns in just 8% of the games Aikman had played. It was one of those stat comparisons that gets football fans debating for hours. The old guard versus the new generation, different eras with different rules and styles of play. Most legends in Aikman's position might have simply brushed it off or offered a diplomatic response about how the game has changed. But Troy Aikman, he went a different route. Talk to me when he has 33% of my Super Bowl titles. Aikman fired back on Twitter, making it clear that he valued championships over statistics and wasn't particularly impressed with the early career hype surrounding Mahomes. It was a bold statement, one that put a target on Aikman's words and essentially dared Mahomes to prove him wrong. Well, Patrick Mahomes took that dare and ran with it, or rather, threw with it. Fast forward to 2024, and the situation had completely flipped. After Mahomes matched Aikman's 3 Super Bowl championships at just age 28, that original 2019 tweet resurfaced, and the internet had an absolute field day mocking Aikman. The numbers told a devastating story. Mahomes now had 132% of Aikman's career touchdowns in just 58% of the games. And oh yeah, he had matched those Super Bowl titles too. To his credit, Aikman tried to walk back the confrontational nature of his original comment. He clarified that it wasn't meant as a direct diss at Mahomes personally, but rather a point about different eras and the importance of championships over raw statistics. Aikman noted that he'd gone on to call Mahomes' games as a broadcaster and had even congratulated him after Super Bowl LVIII, showing there was professional respect despite the earlier shade. But here's where Aikman couldn't quite let it go completely. In broadcasts throughout 2025, Aikman has accused Mahomes of flopping for penalties, particularly criticizing his tendency to slow down near sidelines to draw flags on defenders. During one particularly notable game, Aikman's commentary made it clear he wasn't a fan of these tactics, echoing frustrations that defensive players across the league have voiced about Mahomes exploiting quarterback protection rules. The beautiful irony of this whole situation is that Aikman's original challenge, talk to me when he has 33% of my Super Bowl titles, has now been completely satisfied. Mahomes doesn't have 33% of Aikman's titles, he has 100% of them, and he's still in the prime of his career, with potentially many more years ahead of him. Aikman set a benchmark, and Mahomes not only reached it, but did so at a younger age, and with more impressive statistics across the board. Moving right along, let's talk about one of the most vocal critics of Patrick Mahomes' playing style, Dallas Cowboys linebacker turned Green Bay Packer, Micah Parsons. Micah Parsons. Parsons has been particularly outspoken about Mahomes' tactics of using fake slides and slowing down near sidelines to draw penalties. In Parsons' view, these aren't just smart plays, they're unfair and amount to cheating, tactics that win games for Mahomes and the Chiefs while putting defensive players in impossible situations. Parsons argues that defenders are damned if they do and damned if they don't. Hit Mahomes and risk a penalty and fine, or pull up and give him extra yards or a first down. The on-field manifestation of this frustration was evident in their 2021 matchup, where Parsons sacked Mahomes twice and forced a fumble, playing with an intensity and aggression that made it clear this was personal for him. Despite this on-field intensity and public criticism, there's actually a layer of mutual respect between these two competitors.
Obviously he wants to do good, everybody wants to do good, but you can tell that he wants to be a part of something that's special, part of greatness, and we're trying to build that here.
Mahomes has called Parsons a special player for his versatility, acknowledging the linebacker's ability to rush the passer, drop into coverage, and make plays all over the field. And Parsons, for his part, has praised Mahomes' arm talent and those famous no-look passes, even while criticizing his tactics. It's the kind of rivalry where you can respect someone's talent while still intensely disliking aspects of how they play the game. The rule exploitation issue has become such a talking point that Parsons has proposed specific rule changes to address what he sees as the gray area that Mahomes exploits. His suggestion: mark quarterbacks at the exact spot where they fake a slide or act like they're going out of bounds. Fast forward to 2025, and Parsons is now wearing the green and gold of the Green Bay Packers after signing a massive $188 million extension that made him the highest paid non-quarterback in the NFL. This move adds yet another fascinating dimension to the rivalry. Analysts immediately began discussing how Parsons' consistent production, he's averaged over 12 sacks per season throughout his career, could be the X factor the Packers need to finally solve the Mahomes puzzle in crucial games. Now let's dive into one of the most satisfying clapback moments in Patrick Mahomes' career. Talanoa Hufanga. The setting was Super Bowl XI, one of the biggest stages in all of sports, with millions watching around the world. The 49ers and Chiefs were battling it out, and at one point in the game, Hufanga made a big play, forcing an interception that seemed to shift momentum toward San Francisco. In the heat of the moment, riding the high of that turnover, Hufanga ran to his sideline to celebrate and hype up his teammates. And what did he say? Hufanga called Mahomes a regular quarterback. Let that sink in for a moment. In the Super Bowl, after making one good play, Hufanga decided that Patrick Mahomes, two-time Super Bowl MVP, multiple-time All-Pro, one of the most decorated quarterbacks of his generation, was just regular. It was bold, it was brash, and as we'd soon find out, it was incredibly ill-advised. Now, whether Mahomes heard this comment in real time or learned about it afterward, he definitely found out. And true to form, Mahomes didn't respond with angry words or emotional outbursts during the game. Instead, he did what he does best. He played football at an elite level, led his team to a comeback, victory, and won yet another Super Bowl championship. But here's where it gets absolutely delicious. During the Chiefs' victory parade celebration in Kansas City, with thousands of fans lining the streets and cameras everywhere, Mahomes made sure to address Hufanga's comment directly. He mockingly repeated, "I'm a regular quarterback," turning the trash talk right back on Hufanga in the most public and humiliating way possible. The clip went absolutely viral, spreading across every social media platform, sports talk show, and highlight reel. To Hufanga's credit as a player, he's been a legitimate playmaker throughout his career, recording multiple interceptions against Mahomes over the years. There was a particularly impressive diving interception back in 2022, aided by a tip from teammate Tashawn Gibson, that showed Hufanga's genuine talent and ball skills. In that Super Bowl, beyond his own interception, he was part of a defensive effort that included sacks on Mahomes by Chase Young and Arik Armstead. So this wasn't a case of some random scrub talking trash. Hufanga is a quality player who's made big plays against elite competition. But injuries have been an issue for Hufanga. He only played 17 games combined in the 2023 and 2024 seasons, limiting his impact and keeping him off the field during crucial stretches. In 2025, after signing with the Denver Broncos, he started strong with 21 tackles and a forced fumble in his first 2 games, positioning himself as a potential tone setter for their secondary and someone who could make a real impact in future AFC matchups against, you guessed it, Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs. Broncos head coach Sean Payton has praised Hufanga's impact on the defense, envisioning him as a leader in the secondary who can help bolster their defensive schemes. This sets up the tantalizing possibility of future confrontations between Hufanga and Mahomes, with Hufanga potentially looking for redemption and Mahomes having that regular quarterback moment permanently filed away in his memory banks for motivation. Let's talk about one of the most entertaining and mischievous moments in recent Patrick Mahomes history, his run-in with former Las Vegas Raiders cornerback Jack Jones. Jack Jones. The setting was Christmas Day 2023, with the Raiders hosting the Chiefs in what would become one of the most memorable regular season games of the year. The Raiders came into this game as significant underdogs, having lost 6 consecutive games to Kansas City. The Chiefs were expected to roll, Mahomes was expected to dominate, and Raiders fans were bracing themselves for another disappointing loss in the rivalry. But then Jack Jones changed the narrative entirely. Jones intercepted a Mahomes pass and returned it for a touchdown, staring down the Chiefs quarterback during the entire return. But the interception itself wasn't even the most memorable part. It was what Jones did afterward that truly captured everyone's attention and turned him into a viral sensation. As Jones was celebrating near the stands, a young Chiefs fan, just a kid, reached out hoping to get the football as a souvenir. Jones, seeing the opportunity for some next-level trolling, appeared to be offering the ball to the child. The kid's face lit up with excitement, reaching out to accept this incredible Christmas gift. And then, at the last possible second, Jones pulled the ball back with a theatrical psych motion, denying the young fan and keeping the ball for himself. The timing couldn't have been more perfect or more cruel, depending on your perspective. It was Christmas Day. The kid was wearing Chiefs gear and probably thought this would be the coolest moment despite his team being on the wrong end of the play. And Jones absolutely crushed those dreams in spectacular fashion. The internet immediately dubbed him the Grinch, and the nickname stuck instantly. It was mean, it was funny, it was perfectly timed, and it was the kind of villain moment that makes sports compelling. But Jones wasn't done trolling. In subsequent interviews and podcast appearances, Jones made it clear that he wasn't intimidated by Mahomes and was specifically focused on stopping him. He admitted that he wanted to taunt Mahomes even more directly, viewing him not as some untouchable superstar, but as just another good player he needed to beat. Jones expressed pride in the interception and the moment, embracing his role as the antagonist in Mahomes' story. The interception was actually part of an incredible defensive sequence for the Raiders. In a matter of seconds, Las Vegas scored 2 defensive touchdowns, completely flipping the momentum of the game. The Raiders went on to pull off the 2014 upset, snapping that 6-game losing streak to Kansas City, despite Mahomes throwing for 235 yards. Now, here's where the story takes an interesting turn. In 2025, Jack Jones found himself as a free agent after being released by the Raiders. The same boldness and brashness that made him a fan favorite for that one moment might have also contributed to his departure from the team. Jones has revisited the play multiple times on podcasts and in interviews, always maintaining that composed demeanor out of respect for the game, but also emphasizing his hunger to beat Mahomes and prove himself against the best. Staying in the division rivalry well, let's talk about one of the most intense and personal matchups Patrick Mahomes faces twice a year. Maxx Crosby. The rivalry reached its peak intensity during a 2022 Monday Night Football matchup that became instant must-see TV. During the game, after one particular play, Crosby headbutted and pushed Mahomes in what was clearly a post-play attempt to get under the quarterback's skin and rattle him. It was the kind of physical, borderline dirty play that quarterbacks typically don't appreciate, the kind that can spark sideline confrontations and escalate tensions throughout a game. But Mahomes, he didn't get rattled. He got motivated. Later in that same game, after throwing a touchdown pass to extend Kansas City's lead, Mahomes made sure Crosby knew about it. He screamed directly at the Raiders' defensive end, "I'm here all day." The message was unmistakable. You can hit me, you can try to intimidate me, you can do whatever you want, but I'm still going to beat you and make sure you know it. The moment was captured on camera, went viral instantly, and spawned thousands of memes mocking Mahomes' voice, with people comparing it to Kermit the Frog, a comparison that's followed Mahomes throughout his career. In interviews after the game, Crosby called Mahomes a trash talker and revealed that their on-field exchanges contained rated R language, the kind of stuff that would never make it into family-friendly highlight packages. But Crosby was also quick to emphasize the mutual respect between them. The two were seen hugging after the game, and Crosby has repeatedly praised Mahomes' craft, his preparation, and his skill set. Mahomes, for his part, has taken a similar stance. He said that he views Crosby's aggression as just hard play, not button pushing, respecting the defensive end's relentless motor and ability to impact games. Mahomes acknowledged Crosby's impressive 2023 season, where he recorded 10.5 sacks, showing that he's well aware of the threat Crosby poses every time they face each other. What makes this rivalry particularly interesting is the personal dimension that both players have acknowledged. Crosby has admitted that while things can get heated on the field, he actually loves Mahomes off the field, recognizing him as a good person beyond the uniform and the competition. This adds complexity to their encounters. It's not genuine hatred or personal animosity, but rather the intense competitive fire of two elite players who respect each other but refuse to give an inch when they're between the lines. In 2025, Crosby's relentless motor continues to make him one of the premier edge rushers in football, someone who can take over games and disrupt even the best offensive game plans. His ongoing divisional matchups with Mahomes remain must-watch television, with fans from both sides circling those games on the calendar as soon as the schedule is released. Now we're diving into another case of a legendary quarterback feeling threatened by Patrick Mahomes' meteoric rise. Ben Roethlisberger. The controversy sparked when Roethlisberger was asked to weigh in on the debate about the best quarterbacks in the league. Despite Mahomes' superior statistics, his rapidly accumulating championship hardware, and his status as the clear face of the modern NFL, Roethlisberger claimed he'd take prime Aaron Rodgers over Mahomes. It was a statement that immediately raised eyebrows and sparked intense debate across the football world. On its surface, preferring Rodgers isn't necessarily outrageous. Rodgers is a surefire Hall of Famer with incredible talent and an MVP MVP collection of his own, but the context matters. At the time Roethlisberger made these comments, Mahomes had already matched or exceeded many of the benchmarks that defined Roethlisberger's own legacy. The comparison seemed less about an objective evaluation of talent and more about a reluctance to fully embrace how quickly Mahomes was rewriting the record books and reshaping conversations about quarterback greatness. The reaction from Mahomes' camp was swift. Mahomes' personal trainer and members of his inner circle clowned Roethlisberger on social media, suggesting that the comments were motivated by jealousy rather than honest analysis. Fans piled on as well, pointing out that Mahomes had already surpassed many of Roethlisberger's career achievements in a fraction of the time, with 3 Super Bowl championships to Roethlisberger's 2, and he'd done it at a much younger age. Let's look at the numbers that make Roethlisberger's position so untenable. Roethlisberger finished his career with 64,088 passing yards, an impressive total accumulated over 18 seasons. Mahomes, still in the prime of his career, is on pace to potentially shatter that number while maintaining a much more efficient rate of production. Roethlisberger built an incredible career, won championships, and established himself as one of the great quarterbacks of his generation. But generations change, and Mahomes represents a new standard of excellence that makes even Roethlisberger's impressive resume look somewhat pedestrian by comparison.
Do you think about legacy at this point, or are you still focused year by year?
It's a little bit of both. I think if you play this position, you play this sport, you always want to think about your legacy a little bit and how you're perceived and how you can go out there and play the game.
This quote from Mahomes himself reveals his mindset about legacy and how he approaches the conversation differently than some of the older players who've commented on his career. Let's shift gears to a lighter, more playful rivalry: Eli Manning. The fun began when Manning, never one to miss an opportunity for a joke, decided to troll Mahomes over their respective championship rings. Now, Manning's 2 Super Bowl titles are nothing to sneeze at. Both came against Tom Brady and the Patriots in incredible upset victories that will forever be part of NFL lore. But Mahomes already had 3 Super Bowl championships, seemingly having the clear advantage in any ring-counting contest. So how did Manning level the playing field? By expanding the definition of rings, of course. Manning flexed his NWSL championship ring from his ownership stake in Gotham FC, creating a hilarious moment ahead of a match between Gotham and KC Current, a team that Mahomes co-owns with his wife Brittany. Manning's message was perfect in its pettiness. Hey Mahomes, you may have one more of these than me, but do you have one of these? The genius of Manning's troll is that it accomplished exactly what it was supposed to. It tied their rings count at 3 each, using completely different sports and leagues to achieve parity. It was absurd, it was funny, and it perfectly captured Manning's personality and his willingness to engage in the kind of light-hearted banter that makes rivalries entertaining beyond just the on-field competition. Mahomes, to his credit, has taken Manning's trolling in stride. The two have appeared together on the Manning Cast, the alternative broadcast of Monday Night Football that Eli hosts with his brother Peyton, where they discussed various topics including underwear superstitions and other humorous aspects of football preparation. The interaction showed genuine camaraderie and mutual respect, even while the ring-counting debate continued to simmer in the background. But beneath the humor, there is an element of genuine competitive ego at play. Manning's decision to bring his NWSL ring into the conversation reveals that even in retirement, even in jest, he's not willing to concede superiority to anyone without a fight. The expansion of the ring count to include other sports shows creativity, sure, but it also shows that Manning's competitive fire hasn't been completely extinguished by retirement. And now, we've reached what might be the most significant, most emotionally charged, and most consequential rivalry on this entire list: Josh Allen. Let's start with the numbers that tell the devastating story. Josh Allen is 0-4 against Patrick Mahomes in the playoffs. 4 times Allen and the Bills have faced Mahomes and the Chiefs in the postseason. 4 times they've gone home disappointed. And it's not like these have been blowouts where the Bills were clearly outmatched. Several of these games have been absolute instant classics, back and forth affairs that came down to the final possessions, which almost makes it worse for Allen. He's been right there, within reach of victory, only to watch Mahomes pull off yet another miraculous comeback or clutch performance. The most painful loss came in the 2022 AFC divisional round, a game that will haunt Bills fans and Josh Allen for the rest of their lives. The game went to overtime after an absolutely wild fourth quarter that featured multiple lead changes and some of the most exciting football anyone had ever witnessed. And then came the moment that crystallized everything about this rivalry: the coin toss. The Chiefs won the overtime coin toss, and under the rules at the time, that meant Mahomes got the ball first. He promptly led Kansas City down the field and scored a touchdown, winning the game without Allen ever touching the ball in overtime. Allen had played brilliantly, had done everything asked of him, had given his team the lead late in regulation, and then had to stand on the sideline and watch his season end on a coin flip. The aftermath of that loss was brutal for Allen, and Mahomes made sure to twist the knife. At the Match Golf event in 2022, when asked about his biggest fear, Mahomes jokingly said a coin toss, a direct reference to the Bills game and a not-so-subtle way of clowning Allen for the heartbreaking loss. Allen later admitted that the coin toss loss stung more than the actual defeat itself, revealing just how deeply the moment affected him psychologically. He even changed his coin toss call from heads to tails in subsequent games, but it didn't matter. He still couldn't beat Mahomes when it counted most. The frustration has manifested in other ways too. Allen has engaged in pre-game trash talk before facing the Chiefs, projecting confidence and bravado in an attempt to will himself and his team past their nemesis. But time and time again, the talk has backfired. Mahomes and the Chiefs have made Allen eat his words, turning his confident predictions into bulletin board material and using them as motivation to deliver another playoff defeat.
Yeah, I mean, obviously it sucks. You know, you let a game slip away. Credit to them. They played hard. They played hard the entire game, and they got a lot of good football players. And they closed out there at the end, and so it still sucks whenever you get a lead like that and you're not able to hold it through the rest of the game.
This quote from Mahomes after a different loss shows his mindset after defeats, acknowledging the opponent, taking responsibility, but also showing the competitive fire that drives him to come back stronger. It's this mentality that has helped him consistently beat Allen when their seasons are on the line. The Bills have tried everything to solve the Mahomes problem. Analysts and fans have called for the team to add players like Micah Parsons or other elite pass rushers specifically to help pressure Mahomes, recognizing that without significant defensive upgrades, the cycle of disappointment is likely to continue. So what do you think? Are we missing any major Mahomes rivalries? Do you think he deserves the hate, or is he just a victim of his own success? Drop your thoughts in the comments below and click on the cards on screen for more.